series. I am Noelle Rollins, especially if it's your first time joining us. Hello, I'm so glad you're here. We are going to work on drawing a mouth today with professional colored pencils. So the kit that I am using is this one. It's a 20-piece set from Caran d'Ache. This is a specifically put together set for portraits. I paid about $50 for this from dickblick.com. You can probably get it on Amazon or somewhere else. So if you can do this, I would highly recommend, as well as if you have access to any sort of mineral spirits or rubbing alcohol and a small paintbrush. We are going to use that to do blending and really just get this professional look on our colored pencil portrait. If you do not have a paintbrush, you can use a cotton swab. That'll be just fine. And for the mineral spirits or rubbing alcohol, if you just have like a teaspoon, that's all you need. We're not talking a lot here. So the smallest container possible, and you're good. So, all right, let's get started doing a super high detailed mouth. All right. Okay, so here is the reference photo. We're going to spend a few minutes sketching this out. Now keep in mind, we want generally like 90% plus accuracy here, but we're going to really save most of the time in this video for the actual colored pencils. So I just want to have it be as close as possible within a couple minutes here. The thing that helped me when I'm sketching is I try to look at like this angle of this lip is about 45 degrees or so on the bottom. Try to see, is the opening even on both sides or is it kind of slanted? Yes, it's slanted a little bit downward on the right. The bottom lip is much fuller than the upper lip. I am using very light pressure while drawing since I will be using colored pencils to ultimately fill all of this in. I don't want my drawing to stand out too much. For this lesson, you can pause it at any point. Hopefully you have your paper out and you are mimicking what I'm doing here. If you need to pause it and get your drawing up to this point, do so. If you do not have the Caran d'Ache colored pencils, go ahead and grab any colored pencils you have. And we'll just do the best you can here. Or sit back and watch this video. That is fine too. I chose to do a little baby mouth here, just for something different. They're so cute and sweet. And I always think babies are such fun things to draw, but they're challenging on how to show the detail in such a way, but keep the youthful baby look. And I know many people that work on baby portraits as gifts, and it can be a great gift for someone. So really lightly working to capture those creases in the lips, the highlight areas, make a note of those. So here I am getting all of my pencils ready. This is that set I will be working from. I will do my best to show each color as I do it. Here's the red pencil from the kit, number 580. We're going to go in and just lay out some of these creases. Really accent the shape of these lips. Our goal is to give ourselves about 45 minutes to complete the drawing in colored pencil portion of the mouth. So that gives us enough time to get some detail in there, but not enough time to really let ourselves kind of get stuck in a place of perfection. So I find it helpful to just to fill in each of these creases where they are darkest. It helps anchor me on where I'm drawing. Sometimes then I will start by tracing around where I know there's going to be highlights so I don't get sidetracked later and forget. I'm using very small circular strokes. I'm using much firmer pressure to begin with in this drawing than I did on either the nose or the eye. Since this is so saturated in color, we can afford to go a little bit darker right off the bat. We're not going to be using quite as many colors as we did in the nose or the eyes. And I'm using, I would say, firm pressure in these creases. And now back to light pressure. So work to fill in some of the color on these lips. So here we have the lighter rose color, number 583. It's called Violet Pink. So now I'm going to go in with light circular strokes. What I'm doing is looking at that reference photo, and anywhere where the light is hitting a little different or just the natural shade of the lips is just a little bit more of a softer blushy pink rather than the deeper reddish pink. So we're going to really layer this color in almost everywhere other than the absolute brightest highlighted spots. I love this color for lips. It has a beautiful natural color without being too pinkish or feminine. So just working to make sure I have those spots noted where the highlights will be. And then just constantly looking back and forth between the reference photo, seeing how this lip line is here. Make sure that I capture it. I had mentioned it in our last 12-piece colored pencil mouth drawing video. But this picture shows it, how sometimes the way that our lips curve and fold, the color doesn't match up with where the lips extend. And so I love that about this one underneath that bottom lip, how you can see that that part is still extended. All right, here we have a bright orange color, number 533. And that white, though, you can tell it's curved outward just like the lips are. So on the color wheel, you have red, and then to one side of red, you would have more towards the blue, so you get those purple, violet colors. On the other, you start moving towards yellow, so you get the oranger tones of pinks and reds. So this orange, even though it's vibrant, we're coming in and we're just pulling some of the tones and the shading back towards that oranger part of the red colors. All right, so here we have black. which is number 639. And rarely would I come in with black so soon while doing a mouth, but this one, it just made sense since you don't see anything within there. The only part I want you to be careful for is at the top of that bottom lip, we're going to start out really soft there so we can blend those together a little bit more. And then it's a hard line where it meets the bottom side of the upper lip. So that part you can go in with a very firm pencil and draw that line. So just being really careful not to go too far into the lip when you're coming in with a really bold, firm hand and doing black. If you go too far, it's really hard to come back. So I'm going to just lightly bring out that area where the lips meet. So I believe that was color 649, which is a very deep blue. We'll use that to pull in some of these deeper colors where the inner mouth meets the bottom lip there. I just did a very light pressure blue. As we merge the blues and reds, we'll get that deep purpley, shadowy color. And I'm using very light pressure here to just imply that deeper red tone. So a lot of colored pencil work is trusting the process. Right now you could look and think, oh, that doesn't look like lips. But what we're doing is we're laying down these base colors and different tones of each color to just really start to have this underlying feel within it. So by the time we come back in with our final layers, we have a lot of worked up color. So this is 068, more of a peachy tone. So I'm coming in and doing medium pressure on the darker parts and then very light pressure on those highlighted lighter areas. And so on this lips video, I wanted to do a little of the skin around the lips as well, since it plays into the lip shape. So we'll just do a little bit, just enough to help give some context to the lips and the expression. So just filling in all of the lips pretty much, rounding out. So here was fun. I finally got to start coming in and doing some of the skin there. I love how that little part rounds out there. It's so sweet. And just with very light pressure, I'm just filling in here with the skin tone. Barely even noticeable. I swear some days when I'm trying to do voiceovers, it's like every plane in the area flies over. All right, so just filling in. I'm just going to do kind of a square worth of skin. I think it is helpful to just show how the lips fit into the overall face. So I am doing right through even the highlighted areas because this color will be that of the highlight, if that makes sense. So we'll come in with darker tones to fill in more of the shadowed parts under the lips. All right, so here we have a medium brown, number 745, warm earth, 40%. So I'm going to come in now and just edge out where those lips are, some of the shadowing here as well. I'm making a lot of motions, but most of those I have very light pressure, so it's just barely even showing up. Here I wanted to just kind of add this kind of a latte color brown into the mix to just neutralize some of the colors. We want to make sure that we're not too saturated in just bright pinks and reds, that we have some of those earthy tones to kind of ground the coloring. I liked how this showed up so clearly, just the little shading where you can see the lips close and curve around into the cute little chubby cheeks. So now I'm making sure to leave that lighter band underneath the bottom lip. Just light, circular, somewhat oval pencil strokes here. Pushing very lightly on my pencil. Just slowly working up that color. Once we come in with the deeper red later, that part will not be the darkest on the lips. So here we're coming in with that middle purple color, 115. I'm going to use this to really fill in some of where the lips meet, the darkness of the mouth. Sometimes in baby photos, you'll have a little tongue right there, some gums showing, which is always very sweet. So using this purple to come in and really just add yet another layer into the shadows. Now already you can see it's just starting to shade it out a little bit more. We're starting to get some depth now. I'm using very light pressure to pull a little bit of this purple into the shadowing on the skin. Hardly any at all. But there is just a touch of that color within that shadow. So very light pressure here. So slowly but surely the shapes are coming together. So here I have the white from the set, number 581. It's technically called pink white. It's just the slightest touch of pink in it. And I just want to come in on a few of these highlights here in the lips and fill those in. So at the end of this video, I'm going to show you a couple other secrets that I like doing in colored pencil portraits as well that I haven't shown yet in any of my other videos of this series. So that is something to look forward to at the end. Just really going in there and anywhere where, often right next to where the crease is an area of skin that's more highlighted because it's sticking out. Waves of, ripples I should say, of skin. They come out towards the viewer's eye and then back into a crease. And then I'm just adding a touch of this white. And because we already have that beige color down, it's just blending in with that beige. So we're about at our halfway point here. I'm going to come back in again with this bright red and really start giving it a little bit more saturation now. We've laid out the darker, the lighter parts. We're confident in the shape we have. I'm doing very light pressure on those brighter, lighter spots. And then coming in with a little bit more here, anywhere that's shadowed. Or just full of the beautiful, blushy, healthy, bright baby lips. So a lot more pressure on those creases, really playing up that color. It can feel scary to dive in and do the deeper colors when we're used to doing a lot of the lighter layers. That's, just keep in mind why we're doing this, is to just practice. If you want to go on the side of the paper and experiment with how much pressure you should use, that's just fine. And you can always start lighter and then notice if you need to build up more pressure to make it darker. But what I hope to encourage you to do is to step out of the fear zone of worrying about doing too much, because that will often keep your work looking like a very beginner level if it's just all very light. It's when you're willing to just dive in there and add some of that color that things really start to pop. So I'm laying back on where we had the blue and purple there, and you can see it's starting to now blend right into the blacker part of that mouth. Highlighting the shadows where they come together. Now again, we'll play up those creases and then keep a close eye at how dark to go where they meet. You can notice, and I'm working on it right now, across the whole bottom lip, there's a little bit darker of a whole stripe across, where it's probably shadowed from the upper lip somewhat. And then sometimes just we have more blood flow where the lips may have just touched just a second before this photo was taken. You never know. So we're just gonna make sure to darken that up. And then every once in a while, stop and look at the reference photo so you can kind of overall see where there tends to be darker patches of color. So you can even in between the creases, you notice, okay, well, that part's still very saturated with a deep reddish pink. So now I'll start using a little lighter pressure underneath those highlights there. We want to just work it up to the right color of pink that matches the reference photo. And not every lip that you work on will have an outline of color like this one does, but we're just following the natural way where there's a little bit deeper color at the edges. So this one, because I'm coming in with some of the same colors again, I wanted to just show each time I use them. So we're coming back in again with the orange. And I want to make sure these lips don't get too much on the purple side. So we're coming back in with that orange to just really liven them up a little bit. Bring them back towards a really peachy pink color. So orange works great too for some of these shadows on the skin. So I'm using very light pressure, long oval pencil strokes. Again, very light pressure. So here I am coming in with a little bit different of a color. Let me find it here. I believe this was Hibiscus Pink 094. It has a little bit almost more of a grayish slight tone mixed in and a little bit more pink than purple, just very slightly. Kind of a dusty color to it, which really helps calm down the color of the lips where they're still very bright, but they become a little bit more realistic looking. When we're doing this baby lip, we want to make sure we're not walking the line where it looks like we're drawing red lipstick, which can be really fun to draw, just not appropriate for the baby photo. So working in, and I'm filling in almost all of these highlights now with this dusty pink color. So what that'll slowly do is just make sure that only the highlight areas we have left that are really bright are the ones we want to be really bright, which is very few. So this is the dark red, or regular red that I'm doing here. Just coming back in. As we build up the color, we can see how deep to go with the color without going too far right off the bat. So that's why I'm just coming back in and doing one more layer now that we can see how dark everything needs to be, to make sure that things are on track. So I believe this was the beige color again, 068. And I'm using this to come in and really just fill in some of these areas that are highlighted. So it has that peachy pink color without being so extreme with the whites versus darks. And I'm just lightly filling in the skin again. you can see how much the shading on the skin and showing the movement of the skin around the lips supports the lip shape. It starts to give context, how the lips meet up, and it goes into the cheeks on the right side, and then how they curve around the lips on the left side. So we're not quite done yet, but I want to come in and do a layer of mineral spirits. So right now I'm just opening up my small bottle of mineral spirits. I realized I wanted to fill in a couple things quick. So this is kind of that buttery yellow, 542. And I'm coming in with firm pressure and just filling in all of those areas of highlights again, where the lighter color on the skin is. Before I put the mineral spirits down, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go in one more time and just make sure that I have enough color on the skin. So I'm not using a lot of pressure, just lightly, I would say light to medium pressure coming in here and just really adding a layer all over. Edging where the lips are there. Really rounding out. And then I want to come in one more time now that I put the yellow on and just make those highlights pop. And still have your mineral spirits ready. We're going to use them in just a second here. So I make sure to wipe the extra off of my brush. I'm going to do really lightly sticking just on the lips to start with. And then I'm coming in and saturating that bottom lip. And now you'll start to see when I start doing these darker colors what happens. So my brush is picking up a little bit of that deeper color that's in that shadow. So I'm being very strategic in which way I put my brush so that I drag that color into the shadows, not into the lighter areas. Now I'm doing this darker part there, and you'll see how much I pick up on my brush here. And then I try to use it strategically into the lower lip. And the shadows. Another thing you can do is if you have that picked up on your brush, just find another piece of paper or somewhere else and wipe all of that dark off. Then come back in fresh. That's what you can do as well. That's what I'm doing there. So now, if you chose to use rubbing alcohol, go ahead and wait until this all dries, or you might rip your paper. But mineral spirits, you can go ahead right afterwards. And I'm going in with this bright orange, and I'm just adding in a little bit of color right onto the lip. What's so fun about doing this right after the mineral spirits, here we're back with the red again, is the oils in the mineral spirits, or the mineral spirits themselves, break down a little bit of the binders in the colored pencils. And so it's almost like melting the colored pencil right into the paper. And it goes on in such a beautiful, rich way. So I'm coming back in and really adding saturation back into those areas I just worked on. And we want to make sure that we get the color right on this lip, that we bring in more saturation, really brighten it up. Again, you can pause at any point here if you need. Now we'll come back in with one of the first colors we used, violet pink, number 583. And this is going to help neutralize some of those reds back into kind of a dusty, rosy pink color. So I made sure it was very sharp, and I'm coming in with an exact line here to play up in between the creases, help blend some of those colors together. I'm doing a light layer right into the highlights up there. Lightly working that color out. So sometimes on lips there's the creases, and then there's also somewhat of a cross set of creases. So I'm just neutralizing some of those lines a little bit, going in the opposite direction there. So here is the extra tip. If you are a child, make sure that you have an adult near you, or don't try this. But for everyone else, I just grabbed an old X-Acto knife, and I'm going in and I'm scraping away some of these highlights. You want to be careful not to scrape too hard where you rip the paper, but look at this fun way that you can just lift up some of that colored pencil and do super tiny little scratch marks. This works especially well where we went in with the white before the mineral spirits and then added some color over. That color helps scrape right back off. You can see how it just gives you this little tiny ability to just have some detail there. That technique is also really great for doing whiskers as well. Here I'm coming in with the terracotta color, number 044. I wanted to just bring these into more of an earthy, orangey color and not so bright reddish pink. So I'm just coming in a few touches here to just neutralize that again. I want to show you close up, just so you can really see in detail. We're almost finished here, just a few finishing touches. This is where also, if you were doing an entire portrait, you'd want to compare the lips and how vibrant the skin is and how deep the shadowing is in comparison to other parts of the face, and make sure that everything matches up, that you didn't go way darker with the lips than you did in some other areas or vice versa. That is one of the nice things about starting with a set of 20 pencils, is it's going to keep your coloring consistent. When I first started out and I bought a set of 100, I think, or 120, it was easy to go a little too yellow in my tones or pink in my tones. So here we are. Here are the finished lips with the crayon dash colored pencils. Let me know in the comments. Did you like drawing baby lips? Is there any questions you have at all? I'm going to show you here just a few other mouths that I've done with these same crayon dash colored pencils. There might be some other colors involved beyond these 20 in this portrait kit. But just to really let you see what is possible when you're drawing with these wonderful tools. I hope you give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and are subscribed to see the other lessons coming up in the Peaceful Palette Art lesson series. Thanks so much for being here. Have a wonderful day. Bye.